Welcome to Homeschool Testing Services video on interpreting your Stanford-10 at-home paper and pencil results. The Stanford-10 at-home assessment allows you to assess your students' growth and performance at the time of testing. The goal of testing is to give you an idea of your students' areas of academic strengths and weaknesses. Your student Stanford-10 results will give you a picture of what your student knows well and areas of where they need improvement. The Stanford-10 assessment will give you a snapshot of how your student has grown academically over the past year. I want to remind you that your student's test results do not define who they are as a person. A test cannot measure effort, focus, personal character, academic endurance, or creativity. It is important to remember that skills that are assessed on the Stanford-10 test may not be something that you covered this year in school. Testing assessments can help you to build your relationship with your child. Together, you can set achievement goals for the next school year. When you test the Stanford-10 at-home paper and pencil test, you will receive your 3-page student profile with objectives. Pictured here is the top half of the results page 1. This video will go over each section of the results page for you. At the top of the page, you will see your student's name, grade, date of birth, and Homeschool Testing Services ID number. This top half of the page will give you the full overview of how your students scored on their Stanford-10 at-home assessment. You will see the subtest categories your student tested in here. Each subtest is given a series of numbers. We will go over each of these categories. This student was tested in reading vocabulary and reading comprehension. The total for both of these subtests were combined here for total reading. Here you see the scores for the subtests math problem solving and math procedures. These scores are combined for the total math score. Here you see this student took a subtest in language, and the language subtest has been divided into pre-writing, composing, and editing. This student was also tested in the individual subtest of spelling, science, social science, and listening. Thinking Skills Basic are test questions throughout the assessment that tested the student's knowledge with thinking skills, but did not include any thinking questions from the subtests of social science and science. Basic Battery is the entire overall score for the whole assessment minus social science and science. Thinking Skills Complete are the child's scores on questions that involve thinking skills for all the subtests tested. Complete Battery is the overall score for all subtests tested. RS stands for raw score. This is the number of questions this student got correct in each subtest or section. Here is a graph of the raw score. Maximum points is the number of maximum points this student could have scored on each subtest. SS stands for scaled score. The scaled score is based on the actual number of questions your student answered correctly. Your student's raw score, the actual number of questions they got right, is converted to the scaled score based on the difficulty level of each question, hence the name scaled score. Raw scores cannot be compared between test years, but scaled scores can. By converting each score to a scaled score, this allows you to compare your student's scaled score each year. Your student's scaled score should increase each year. You will not be able to compare your student's scaled score between different test brands. You can compare scaled scores on the Stanford-10 at-home assessment year after year. PR stands for percentile rank. The percentile rank indicates how many students in a norm group had scores that were the same or lower than this student's score. A percentile does not indicate the percentage of questions that your student answered correctly. We see our sample student has a percentile rank for reading comprehension of 70. This student scored better than 70% of other students nationally in reading comprehension. ST9 stands for Stay 9. A Stay 9 is a quick way to compare your student's performance to the performance of students in the national norm group. Stay 9s are calculated by dividing the student's percentile rank in a norm group into 9 subgroups. These Stay 9s are numbered 1 through 9. 1 is the lowest Stay 9 and 9 is the highest. These Stay 9 subgroups are not equivalent in size. This chart shows how Stay 9s are broken down into 9 parts. Each percentile rank is broken into a range and is divided into one of the 9 Stay 9 groups. The numbers on the bars 4, 7, 12, 17, and 20, etc., are the percentage of students whose score fall into each Stay 9. For a Stay 9-3, 12% of students will fall into a Stay 9-3 category based on their percentile rank between 11 and 22. Compare that to a Stay 9-5, which has 20% of students and a percentile rank between 40 and 59. A Stay 9 of 4, 5, or a 6 is considered average. 54% of students will receive an average percentile rank with a Stay 9 of 4, 5, or a 6. A Stay 9 of 1, 2, or 3 is considered below average. 23% of students will score below average on a subtest percentile rank. A Stay 9 of 7, 8, or a 9 is considered above average performance. 23% of students' percentile rank score will score above average on a given subtest. Our sample students scored a percentile of 70 on reading comprehension when compared to the national norm. If we look here at percentile 70, that lines up with a Stay 9 of 6, and 17% of students scored a Stay 9 of 6 on a given subtest. Stay 9 6 is average. Our sample students' score for reading comprehension is average. NCE stands for the normal curve equivalent. The normal curve equivalent is a way of measuring where a student falls along the normal curve. The numbers on the normal curve line run from 0 to 100 and display how many students out of 100 had a lower score. The average NCE is 50. GE stands for grade equivalent. Here, the raw score is averaged and the grade equivalent is given for the raw score. Each grade equivalent is the grade level and the decimal point followed by the grade month. The grade equivalent provides a general grade level of overall performance. This does not say that your child is performing at that grade level. However, it means that a student at that same grade level would have gotten the same score as your child if she was to take the same test as your child. Here for math procedures, the student's grade equivalent is 8.3. This would be 8th grade 3rd month. Our student was tested as a 5th grader. 8.3 translates to our 5th grade student performing 8th grade math as well as an 8th grade student can perform 5th grade math. If this student was given an 8th grade math assessment, it is unlikely they would score at an 8th grade level. Grade equivalents are not to be used for students' grade placement. PHS stands for post-high school. You see PHS listed under grade equivalent for total math. PERF stands for performance. The performance options are less than basic, basic, proficient, or advanced. This gives you an overall idea of how your student is doing in each of the subtest areas. Your student's Lexile measure is a valuable tool that you can use to link your student's Lexile reading measure to a book's Lexile text measure. Check out our video on our webpage under Utilizing Test Results about the Lexile measure. You will also find helpful resources at lexile.com to help with your student's reading journey. Here you will see the bottom half of page 1 of the results page. This is the same information that was provided the top half, but breaks each subtest into smaller categories. Here you see the subtest the student tested in was vocabulary. Vocabulary was broken down into synonyms, multiple meaning words, and context clues. Of the 30 vocabulary questions, 18 involved thinking skills. The student percent correct is the number of questions the student answered correctly divided by the total number of questions. This is then compared to the national percentage correct. The student's percentage correct is then compared to the national percentage correct and is given a category of below average, average, or above average. Here, the student scored average in vocabulary but above average in thinking skills for vocabulary. Using this part of the results page can help you find outliers that you can focus on with your student for the next school year. Below average is in red, average is green, and above average is in blue. These color codings allow you to quickly see the areas that you need to work on with your child. Here is page 2 of the results page. Again, each subtest is broken into smaller categories to help you see what your child knows well and what they still need to learn. Page 3 of the test results continue to break down each subtest. Thank you for trusting Homeschool Testing Services with your testing needs. Let us know if there's anything else we can do to help you with your testing.